Well, my friends, we've come to the end of our 16-week journey. We've been looking at texts that the Buddha has offered on how to live with integrity. And I hope it's the case that we've learned something in the process. I hope the course has been meaningful to you and that you're able to do the homework. That is, continue to work on living with integrity for the rest of your life. That's the homework. You know, it's not that difficult. I don't know why we think it is. As we see from these texts that we've looked at over these last 16 weeks, the Buddha lays out a fairly simple model about how to be a better person, how to make a better world, you know? There are certain behaviors that we can cultivate that help steer us in the direction of our more wholesome nature, the healthier part of ourselves. And there are behaviors that lead us in the other direction, that lead us into greater harm and suffering. And these last 4 weeks, we've really been looking at, first of all, how to learn skillful effort. That is, how to actually apply ourselves to the task of trying to cultivate what's healthy within us and try to abandon or allow to atrophy those things that are unhealthy, that cause us damage. This fundamental distinction into healthy and unhealthy states, healthy and unhealthy actions, healthy and unhealthy behaviors, is really fairly simple and fairly straightforward. And most importantly, the Buddha is telling us that our minds have the capacity to act as a rudder, to steer our way through ourselves, to steer our way through our world in ways that optimize our situation, optimize our well-being. Yes, it is the case that because of cause and effect and karma, an awful lot of what happens to us, happens around us. We have no control over a lot of what happens in our world, even in our inner life. It's conditioned by previous habits and so forth. And yet, we have this special gift, this special opportunity. We have consciousness. We have awareness of the present moment. We have a prefrontal cortex that's evolved that has the ability to really notice and focus on what's going on in the present moment. And by cultivating and augmenting and nurturing the ability to use this power of awareness, we can actually learn to guide a straighter course through the vicissitudes of our own minds. We have the ability to lead ourselves into becoming the sort of person we want to be, the sort of person that we know is better for us. And one of the ways to do this is to simply understand the nature of our situation. You know, these things to reflect upon, that we will get old, that we will die, that we have the ability to shape our karma. That's really the liberation, the freedom that the Buddha is offering in the midst of all this. And it's such a straightforward summary that he gives to his mother, Prajapati, Gautami, of how to understand when you're on track and not. You know, if you're doing things that lead to harm, then that's not healthy. If you're doing things that lead to well-being, then that's healthy. It's not that complicated to understand what's the right thing to do in any given situation. What's harder, of course, is enticing ourselves to actually do what's healthy for us. We have this perverse tendency as human beings to, do things that cause harm to ourselves and others, even though we know it's causing harm to ourselves and others. That's the delusion part. That's why we have to work on gaining an understanding of the qualities of the mind, the qualities of behavior, and what's healthy and unhealthy, so that we can learn to steer ourselves away from what causes harm and causes suffering. And we wound up the whole program with this wonderful text, the Discourse on Blessings, the Mangala Sutta. And it really gives a very practical, very down-to-earth picture of what it's like to live life as a householder that is really trying on some basic level to walk the path. You know, living in suitable places and treating people with respect and speaking with honesty and so forth. And then it guides us into, you know, developing the mind in various ways, cultivating certain skills and behaviors. And ultimately it's leading us toward trying to understand the nature of things. And that's that understanding that's going to make the difference. That's going to be give us the ability to really steer our course to a healthier life and overcome the compulsive quality of so many of our habits and learned behaviors and dispositions. So this part of the program is wrapping up now, as I've said. I hope many of you choose to move on to the next one, Developing the Mind, where we're really going to spend 16 weeks looking very closely at the meditation texts, at the various teachings on how to guide the mind, how to train the mind in very specific ways around mindfulness, around the Brahma-viharas and so forth. And ultimately also perhaps lead on to the final section of the course, Developing Wisdom, really where we use as a platform this life of integrity. We develop as a skill the ability to train the mind to greater clarity and greater strength. And then we use that tool to do really good work. That is, to understand what's going on here. And then, of course, there's a feedback loop. You know, it's our understanding that gives us the ability to live with integrity, and which gives us the ability to train the mind, which gives us the ability to understand the nature of things. And then that feeds back into how we live in the world. This fundamental link in Buddhist thought between the theory and the practice, understanding what's happening and then using that understanding as a blueprint for living one's life. So again, I thank you all for participating in this course. I really hope you found it meaningful, and I really want to encourage you to continue to work with this material. Feel free to print it out and keep it in a binder or something for future reference. If you're a teacher or find yourself in a position of teaching others, feel free to use this material as a teaching tool. And really try to take this on as a lifelong pursuit. You know, living with integrity is not something you accomplish. It's something that you work toward, that you are dedicated to over a long period of time. And I wish you all a very long and happy life living with integrity. Thank you very much.